Welcome to the Bladtcast. Two interviews for you today. The first, joining me right now from Every Mother's Nightmare, Ruhl, who they have an album called Resurrect The Faithful that is, by the time people see this, is out now. Rick, thanks for taking the time to talk to me today.
Good. Glad to be here, man.
You and I were originally going to chat last week, and then we rescheduled it to this week, but I'm still going to start with the same question because I feel like even a week later, it's worth talking about. The passing of Eddie Van Halen, and I don't know if you knew him. I don't even know, I don't know if the band ever, played a gig with them or anything, but I feel like it's hard to, there's a few figures you can probably pick from, rock in the last 40 years that are more universally, Neil Peart, who also passed away this year. It's kind of one of the other ones,
right?
Like everybody's like, oh yeah, he's great. So I just wanted to start off getting your thoughts on Van Halen, the band, Eddie as a guitar player, and maybe the first time you ever heard a Van Halen song.
Oh, that's cool stuff right there. Because Van Halen was one of my all-time favorite bands. Eddie Van Halen, Dave. Was my first concert, I guess, was Running with the Devil tour. I guess that's what I was going to call it. But Eddie Van Halen. The other night when that happened, me and my drummer Alan Bone would just sit around here in the studio and we listened to, a couple of records, just some old records, and just listen to how incredible a guitar player he was. You forget about all the songs, like on all the way up to Fair Warning and all that stuff. Just the solos and just the playing is incredible. The riff, the rhythms he's doing behind there, and just very incredible. I don't even know. I wish I could do it. We were sitting there listening to a run he done. I was like, if I could do 1/4 of that, I would be happy. Right? So yeah, man, it's a shame. I hate it because he changed. He was one of the guys that changed guitar. There was one of the bands that kind of changed. Rock and roll. There's these little pillar bands that my whole life growing up. It was Alice Cooper, then Kiss, and then, Van Halen. It just went on down the line all the way up to, Guns N' Roses. And then that's, to me, that's when everything changed, when the music scene got washed up with, the radio and doing the, I don't know what just everybody got stuck into the ballads and trying to do the biggest ballad and the best ballad and forgot about what rock and roll really was about running around the roads and eating peanut butter and playing right.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously even, Van Halen had some very successful, very popular ballads, a lot of those with Sammy, and it's easy to focus on how great, especially like the first 4 Van Halen records were, but just, like right now, ever since he passed away, on satellite radio, Sirius XM has had this Van Halen channel. So you hear all this stuff and stuff that, I wasn't a huge different kind of Truth fan, some of the later stuff, but then you hear it and you're like, even on a song that maybe might not be my favorite, Eddie's great. You've always got something in it,
Yeah, you can't argue with his playing, man, ever. No matter what he does, he can play the shell of the guitar.
Yeah. Now, was that your first concert period was seeing Van Halen, or that was just the first you saw them? I guess that would have been for the first album if it was Running with the Devil.
Well, what happened was back in the day, you didn't have all this, media hitting you and with thing, and so you had to find them things. And what happened was I found this white record. I used to me and my mom would go out and visit some of my family in Orange County, California every summer. And I bought this white record, and I wish I still had it, but the vinyl was pressed so cheaply. It had greens and speckles of different color stuff in it, but it was apparently it was Van Halen's last show in town at, I want to say something like the Palomino Club or something like that. It was just something crazy, but it had Running with the Devil, and it had Atomic Punk, and it had the horns and everything, but you can tell it hadn't been put on record yet. It hadn't been, just synced up in what we know. So and it was a pretty cool thing. It was raw, you know, it was just off a board mix or something like that. But it was very cool. It didn't have no name, no nothing on it, but it was very cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess visiting Southern California would be the way, you know, because for years they would play parties like in Pasadena and around. Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles, so you know, you hear every once in a while you meet somebody that actually had seen the band in one of those things, and you know, it's always
Right.
so crazy to think about
House.
the fact that Dave ended up in the band because he had the equipment. You know, he had a PA, so it's like, oh, he's not our first choice, but he has the equipment, and you know,
Eddie,
you can say what you want about Dave as a singer, but as a
yeah.
front man, I don't know. It's hard to compare anybody to David Lee Roth, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Sammy, when they got with Sammy, it was a little more, Sammy, you got the range, you got the thing, but, you know, the way I see Van Halen was, you know, that was them four guys was the magic, back in, you know, coming up, we were listening to the record. It's like, you think how them records were not really like, the amps are not wide open and everything's just really, really toned down to the way it is today anyway. Just very cool stuff. Forgot about a lot of songs and the way they, you know, at the end of songs they would just jam for a minute and do things. And
Yeah.
you know, I've always loved that. You know, listen to a record, you know, kind of nowadays songs are wham 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 wham. They're just trying to pack them in, you know. And so we kind of try to do that a little bit ourselves. You know, you take a little bit from your heroes and try to, you know, build on it or whatever.
Yeah, I
But
mean, it's interesting. Sort of the old approach would be, you know, I mean, it's like I feel like, you know, on the Beatles' White Album, there's you know, an Eric Clapton guitar solo on "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," and they're fading out during it. You know, it's just like, no, this is what I
right,
want to hear more of. You know, I mean, everything before it was great too, but give me, I don't know, 20 more seconds. What's the rush?
right.
Go ahead. So, you know, you were talking about some of the other bands of influence. So it's always worth showing out that I have, in honor of Election Day coming, I do have Alice Cooper on. And
That,
what,
that
what
was my
were,
first show.
that was
It
your
was my
first show?
very
Yeah,
first thing.
it was
It was
my
set.
first show too, but I came along a little bit later. So I saw him on the Trash Tour in 1990, but that was the first concert I ever went to. And then I saw Kiss and Aerosmith that same summer. So it was like, I said this to somebody recently, like when you know, your first three concerts are those bands, you're like, oh wow, is everybody this great? And then you
Right.
realize pretty quickly, no, not
Got
everybody's quite that
such
good.
a great one time, right? No, my mom took me to see Alice Cooper, and then I was like I said, I was 7, and she took me to it, and I was just, he had the, you know, that was the big, to me, that was probably at its pinnacle, you know, at that day. The stage show was incredible. And I just went home and I learned every breath, every note on that record. I listened to it the other night. You know, that's what I've been listening to, a bunch of stuff like that from when we were writing, just to clear my head. But, you know, I grew up with my uncle worked for Charlie Daniels for 29 years. I grew up around Evan Bishop, Marshall Tucker, you know, Ricky Skaggs, stuff like that. So I've been bombarded with music.
Yeah, it's just you know, I grew up in New York and I've lived in Los Angeles for more than 15 years. So it's always interesting, you know, when I get a chance to talk to someone, you know, who grew up in the South. You always wonder about like just sort of the combination, because a lot of people that I'll end up interviewing will be people that go on into a career in rock, and you always sort of wonder about what's the moment where it goes like, oh, I could really get into the world of country, or I really like, you know, the harder rock. And you know, you always get some different interesting answers. So you just sort of gravitated, it seems to me from what you're saying, you gravitated more towards the harder rock stuff. And at what point do you start playing? Is it like, wow, look what Eddie Van Halen can do, I want to be a musician? Or is it something completely different than that?
Well, from the second, from the day after the Cooper concert, you know, I had a little plastic record player, and I would play that thing, but I'd play that record, and that was it. You know, I just started, you know, remembering what I saw, and just learning, man. And then, you know, I just kind of felt, what I really dig is that I just like music. You know, if it's good, good is good, and you know when it's good, you know when it's not. So it don't matter what it is. It's, as long as it's got a little heart and soul in it. And I love it,
Yeah, and obviously, as I referenced the new album, "Resurrect the Faithful," which I was able to listen to last week, and I think it's great, and I think it's the best thing about it is that you're a band that's obviously been around for a little while, but you still put out new music, and it seems like because there was also the documentary that was on the social media, it was on the YouTube page
right.
for the record label, and and I'll make sure to mention that again in a moment. But it's just how excited everybody is to be making new music, and that's kind of what you want to see. You'll hear
Yeah.
some other musicians that are like, I don't know why we would make music anymore. And
Right.
so I always like to hear when, obviously you'd like to hear about new bands, but also when, bands have been around for a while, that you could go like, yeah, well, we could go and play the same, 45-minute set, on a festival for the next 20 years. But talk about how important it is to you personally and the rest of the band to actually keep making new music.
Well, man, I just feel like, it's just like getting demons off my shoulders, pretty much. Pretty much everything I write is, we're just a rock band. So all we've done all this whole time when rock was high and when it was low was we just been traveling around playing anywhere we can play and writing, because that's just what we do. Um, God, man, that's a hard question. Um,
Is it just as simple as, even if you didn't want to sit down and make new music, you'd have stuff in your head? Like if you just, if you guys just sort of were sitting at home, you'd still be thinking about it. Maybe you'd, pick up a guitar or
I've
whatever. So you
always
might as
got
well try and hone it and actually put it out for people to
no.
enjoy.
I've always I write. I've always got guitars, something hollering, humming, this and that. I just like. I just want to keep. I'd like to be known for what I'm doing instead of what I've done, because I'm not real proud of my record deal. Started out with playing 13 shows. I wanted a record deal. Guns N' Roses and all this was going on, and all this stuff was happening. I said, got to have a record deal, and so I got enough songs scraped together. I practiced the art of writing songs pretty much the whole time I've been growing up, and you know, um, I got a record deal and didn't know what to do with it. We played 13 shows. Next thing we're in a studio, this gazillion dollars, and we're, just don't know what we're doing. Ass backwards, jumping in feet first. And, but man, just learning and seeing all the people. And I sit in the studio, back to the Van Halen thing. I sit in the studio with Jim Gaines and David Lee Roth for 3 days while we were recording, and he was nothing like I ever thought he would ever be. He just sit over in the corner, smoke pot, and and listen to us record. So, I think if you don't push yourself, and I'm not going to mention no names, but there's a lot of bands that are still from the time I got lumped into hair band, or whatever you want to call it, hair band, or whatever.
I mean, that's what a lot of people call it, and it's very easy to dismiss it when you use it. I mean, I think some bands kind of embrace that, and it's talking about satellite radio. There's a channel called Hair Nation, and
Yeah.
I definitely will hear your song "Love Can Make You Blind." I hear that on that channel, and
Yeah, I mean, that's how back then you had to have that song to get to anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and and I think that I think you're right. There are plenty of those bands who, they basically just go out and play the hits, and even much bigger bands. I mean, Aerosmith has been very upfront. They've said, I don't know why we would make another record, and
Right.
if they don't want to make one, then they shouldn't.
Right.
I think you get the other side of that, where it's like, well, here's a bunch of money to make a record, and it's like, no, let's not listen to that then. So. You were talking about sort of, getting into the studio for the first record. I love watching everybody talk about this one. So talk about why you were so comfortable at these studios. And I think in the little documentary, I think you talked about it. You would actually spend all day there, and you were even sleeping in the studio while you guys were
Oh,
recording.
yeah, man. I had my pajamas and house shoes on. That, so I just go lay on their couch and watch TV, and they'd bring food in, and we'd play video games. It was just it was a real good buddy of mine, Ziggy from American Outlaws Guitars. He makes me guitars. he was doing some work at the studio for him, and I'd been trying to get in touch and do some stuff with Dave Cal for a long time, and just never worked out. But they just built a studio literally on the backside of where I live, on my subdivision. There's some train tracks, and it goes out in the country, and there's this one little road that shoots off, and they built a little studio there, and it's probably 6 minutes from my house. And they kept going, man, tell Ruhl to come down here and hang out for a minute. I mean, they kept telling me. So when I just jumped in my car and went down there and sit and hung out with them, and they were playing stuff, and they played me 4 or 5 things that they were doing, and he was sitting in his chair, and he's turned around and he goes, now, if you do a record here, it'll be this big and it'll cost this much. And I was like, okay, we'll see. Yeah. So we went down there, and the last song we had written was Breathe, and we went down there and just it was almost finished, so I was gonna make sure we could work together. So let's do one song, see what happens, and go from there. So I wanted to see what his producer hat was, because like I said, I never got to work with him, but I like what he does. And we just went in there, and he was just like one of the band, it was comfortable. Matt, I've known Matt, the guy that actually owns the studio. He had been a fan forever. I let him play on Love Can Make You Blind when we did a remake of it. He played guitar on it. It just clicked. It just worked. And as soon as I got done with Breathe, I don't even think we were finished yet. We were sitting in control room, and I said, man, let's just do the record. Let's just go ahead and do it. And it just fell, everything like that. It just fell together. We finished almost like 2 weeks when the COVID thing hit wide open. So we were just kind of waiting to mix and master this through that time. And I don't know, it's just, stroke of luck. The songs, before we even started writing, I sat down with everybody. I said, I don't want to do anything like I've heard other, bands do, just kind of rehashing what they've done. Everything from drum fills coming in to punches to how many chorus passes we do, everything. I just want to think about it and do some, just a little different, just something, that's us 5, because this is a whole new band. And it just, it was just one of those things where you either got real lucky or good or something for a minute. And, I love the record. There's, there's things I would like to do with it, but ever since I had a big deal with Clive Davis, I'd go in there in the studio, and we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's the last time I spent any length of time in a studio that I wasn't selling my car to pay for. But we went there and done it. And when Bill from the record label heard it, he called me. Like I told him, I said, let's just do the record there. And he called and said, hey man, I guess I booked you 9 weeks in that studio. I was like, 9 weeks, and it's right here behind my house. I was like, yeah. I was like, all right.
Yeah, and the behind the scenes that I'm talking about, it's called Here's to the Ones, the documentary, and that can be found on the bravewords.com social network. So it's just right out there. That's where I saw it on YouTube. It's I think there is a version that can be purchased, but you can just watch like about a half hour of everybody excited talking about it. And that was one of the things that I was going to ask you. So you actually got everything recorded sort of right before the things started to shut down because of the virus, right? So
it finally hit right at the very end. So.
Yeah, so you kind of lucked out in that way, because and was there ever any question on, let's wait till next year? Because there's a lot of look, we'll see a lot of tours next year or maybe the year after that got canceled from this year, like some pretty big ones. And at the same time, you see that there's a lot of albums that were supposed to come out this year, and everybody's like, well, I can't tour for it, I'm going to wait till next year. But then there's the other way to look at it. If AC/DC feels like they can put out an album in November, why can't everybody put out an album? So you guys felt pretty confident, like that you were always going to put it out when it was ready, right?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as we had as soon as we had enough material, and it just we had a little stint there where we started writing stuff. When I first wrote Breathe, I was afraid to show it to them, because to me it was just so much different than everything I'd done. It was just choppy rock thing, and I finally showed it to Troy and Alan, and they were like, "Yeah, man, let's do that." And I was like, "This is kind of where I wanted to go with it." I just wanted it to be really real, and nothing preconceived of any way. Everything is true life from the gut, and it's happened to one of us in this group. I kind of like my whole philosophy on songwriting is we play what we see and write what we live. So, and if I don't know if that makes any sense, but it sounded good to me when I.
No, I mean it absolutely does. I mean it's almost like if you want to be any kind of writer, you'll be much better at it.
You got to go live freaking
Yeah,
right.
you got to live a little, and it's like I don't mean to disparage a global multi-million record recording artist, but to me an example was always Billy Joel was a great songwriter, and then he married Christy Brinkley, and then they were still fun songs, but it's like he was like a completely different guy, and it's like, yeah, because if if you marry the most beautiful woman in the world, all of a sudden you don't have to write a song about contemplating suicide.
Shelf, man.
So I was talking to you about how I listened to the album last week, and I feel like I listened to it in the perfect way. It was late at night. I was putting notes together for this, and I had the headphones on. So, and so it was all right here in my ears, where a little bit louder, but in a good way. And I picked up on some subtleties that I think if I was listening to, especially if I was listening to it in the car, if I was listening to it on regular speakers, I might not have picked up on it. And one of the songs I really liked was a song called "When It Goes Away." And there's this like acoustic guitar picking or something in the background that I don't know that I would have heard. And I assume you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It was just this sound that you don't usually get. And you're talking about this album sounding different. So I'm kind of wondering what that was.
That's just stuff John does, man. I think he's kind of mental. I played with him in a little side project I did a long time ago, and I always just liked, when he goes to play a solo, it's never, what I would expect. I told them guys, I was like, man, I've never seen two guys with guitar players, and we gave them these big old dynamic holes to play solo in, and do a little bit, and then just throws this cool rhythm in, and just unselfish, just going for the song. And man, I couldn't tell you what he did, but the first time I heard it, I was like, what is what is that? But
yeah,
he just does stuff like that, man. It's a trip, and I think that's what kind of brings the different. You got to push yourself, and you got to do things different, or you're just gonna be, you're just gonna be stagnant. I believe.
You'll end up being one of those bands that we didn't want to name earlier,
Right. Don't do that.
who do the same set list from 1991 that they do in 2021. Speaking of performing live, there is a song called "Drowned by Love" that I think has a great sing-along quality, and to me that feels like one that when you are able to go out and perform live, that strikes me as one that's going to be a lot of fun. Is that the way that you guys in the band look at that song?
Yeah, man, it was it kind of came about as us going to the store, and jumping in this old truck that I had behind my house, and it just kind of took off. It was probably the first song we finished, but it was one of those songs, when it just happens, and you wrote it, and it's been like 15 minutes, and almost every aspect of the song is done. You're like, wow, man, if the whole record comes like that, we'll be done in about 2 weeks. But man, I love the song. It's kind of stupid. This guy, the guy that I say something about there in the middle, he was telling us a story. He was telling a story about what these guys do in jail. They take these rubber gloves and they call them fifis, and they tie them together, and that's their girlfriend or something. And I said, drown by. They fill them up with hot water. I said, drown by love. I said, we got to do it, and it just fell together. And yeah,
that's funny.
We used it to open a couple of shows before we recorded it, and it went over really well. But when it goes away, that's probably my favorite thing that I wrote, because I took Dave a piece about this big of that song, because we started messing with it one night, and it just never would. We could do like a verse, chorus, and verse, chorus, but never could get all the rest of the pieces to it. And I took it to the studio and I just got a guitar and I said, here's what I got. And this is what I loved about him. He'd turn around and he goes, grabbed his guitar and we started playing together and we just started banging shit off each other. And it was like, it's kind of a little magical thing. And it just came together. And, that's what I really wanted him for, is just, all this shit I got in my head. Can you put it in some kind of order, or it's not just me babbling in my band going, you just got to do this part. And that song was, the thing about that song is that song could have been real easy. As soon as they started playing it, when I showed them the riff that I had, it could have been real easy. Something like, and I don't want to say this, but it could have been something like Every Rose, you know what I'm saying, in that vein of a song. And,
sure, yeah, absolutely.
And what I was feeling and what was going on in my house was everything but that. So John comes in to record that night, and me and my daughter, she's a splitting image of me, and she's about to turn 18, and it's kind of rough because I fight with her and it's fighting with me. But John came in the studio and he's starting to play it, and I was like, no, and I kept beating him down. He goes, man, I was in a great mood till we got here. I said, I want you in a good mood. I want you to be mad. I want you to be sad. And yeah, man, that song really hit home. I mean, it was right when I came out of the studio. Everybody was sitting back like that, and I said, I'm just going to throw some lyrics out at you and say some shit. And if you tell me if I go too far or say the wrong thing. I came out and everybody was just sitting there, and I just opened the door and I said, that's what's happening at my house. And I shut the door and went back in there, and it just it took, it finished it. I love it. I like it because it's slow. It's almost right behind your heartbeat. It's just like it almost feel like you're falling. And that's what I wanted every song to, wherever it went and wherever mood I was in or these guys were in, I had to go there. You know what I'm saying? Like, just like Drowned by Love, it just had to be rockers and redneck and not give a shit.
Right. I wanted to talk about the song Resurrect the Faithful and, what goes into naming the album after that song. I wanted to kind of let you take a moment to talk about the voicemail that is the part of that song.
The voicemail, my boy Gunner, the other guitar player, he kept telling me about this thing. He said, it's this little girl. It's on the internet. It's been recirculating. It just plays over and over for years. It's just been going. That thing has just been going over, and nobody knows where it's coming from, who's sending it, or what. And I was like, this song was kicking my ass because this was Gunner's song. And one night at practice, when we were writing, me and Troy started messing with Gunner, started changing his chorus a little bit. And Troy started chopping it where it does that little weird chop off thing. And I was just hanging it on, just messing with Gunner, and before I knew it, the song was written and I'm sitting here and I didn't have a chorus and I hated it and I didn't like nothing about it. And this little thing that he kept saying, and he brought it to the studio one night and played it. And I said, that's the beginning of the song. It's got to be. And I don't even really know what it is other than this little girl, and she's counting down. And but it's just bizarre looking. It looks like something out of, one of those, like that movie, The Grudge or something, it's
sure,
just
yeah.
Eerie, like, and the song, like I said, that I had that intro in the song before I even had the song, but it started giving me, ideas. And I was in the studio just running through it, and I just couldn't get it to happen. And I blew it off. So I'm gonna go home, eat something, feed my kid, and got home and just, in the kitchen cooking and stuff and humming through it, and dropped out a line, and everything fell together. I called him, hey man, I said, I'll be back down there in a minute. I went down there. I said, I just said, man, this just hit me. So give me a couple passes if we're not, on track, kind of on track, or, somewhere I can't, just crush it and figure out something later. And I went in there and Resurrect the Faithful. And I just started thinking about all the rock and, all the people, there's still people that like rock and roll. There's people that like good music. So I was just like, I said, resurrect the faithful, man. There's still people out there that want to do this. There's people that want to write music. There's people that want to play music. I live music. So, I just figured it just fell in, and I started saying it, and everybody was like, and that's pretty cool. And I said, man, I'm thinking, because I was calling the record Frey before that, just to have a working title.
Sure, yeah.
I finally hit the chorus, and I was like getting, the chorus had a good little, yeah, this I say, yeah. I was digging all that. Yeah, resurrect the faithful. And I said, I'm digging it. So, we threw it on Bill. I said, I think we're going to change the name, and I didn't let him listen. The guy from Bill from the record label, I did the whole writing of the record and recording of the record, and didn't let him hear a song. I just said, you got to take my word for it, and know that I love you. I would never screw you over, and take my word for it that it's it's different. It's steady progression of what we're doing, but it's just different, And I said, but I'm gonna change the name, and we went down to the first place. Right as soon as we left the studio, we were going down the road, and there's a little cemetery, and somebody had built this big old thing stick up like this, and it's got these two, I think they're eagles or they're blackbirds or crows or something, but they're fighting in the air. And I just stopped here, and we started taking pictures, and that's the way the whole record went. It's kind of bizarre, but that's how it came together. It just fell together.
Yeah, and I mean, it is sort of one of those. It is a little bit of a rallying cry where you're talking about resurrect the faithful. I mean, you think about, obviously, when you look at, in terms of music, physical music sales and all that, you do see a lot of pop and stuff. But then when you look at the tours, when we're actually able to go out and have tour grossing, you'll always see, like the Guns N' Roses tour, what is hugely popular. I mean, one of the biggest grossing of all time. And you're like, well, yeah, there are people that still want that. And it's like, I guess the one side of it, it's very easy to go and find a new song and be like, you type in the name of your band and like, oh, look, they have a new song, but you don't know to look for it unless you think of it. So it's sort of the mixed blessing. It's I've talked to other artists about this. It's much easier to communicate directly with fans now, because it's like, oh, if they saw you a few years ago, they liked the last record, maybe they signed up for something, or they follow with social media or whatever. So then when there is something new, they can find out. But just maybe somebody that hasn't thought about it in a little while, it must be hard to reach them. And I think that idea, the song, the title of the album, I think, is definitely the right mindset for people who just like good music, whether it was recorded 30, 40, 50 years ago, or, last month. It's like, if it sounds good, it's a good song. And, there were a lot of those songs that I was listening to that I thought that. I do want to talk to you about the song Here's to the Ones that is dedicated to the military. And I'm just sort of wondering, do you sit down like, all right, I'm going to write a song for the troops, or does it happen a little bit more organically than that? How does that song come about?
It's all monkey see, monkey do. I tell you, this song makes me cry. When I start talking about this song, it tears me up, because we're playing a little show in Texas. I think it was last year or so, but we're sitting there, and there's this kid. I can't remember how old he is, but I got his name and stuff in there. And but he stood around all day, hanging out at the club, and bought the t-shirts, and did all the, just was there. And after the show, this was hell 1:32 in the morning, still there. And and he'd hung out all day and seen him, and sit, and he just came up, and he'd been over there, and he'd lost his leg, and I don't know why it makes me cry, but one makes sign his leg. And that was weird to me. It was just, I seen his face. He'd seen shit, and he was cool as hell, and he hung out with me the rest of the night. And wanted me to sign his leg, man, and said, just man, thank you for signing my leg and this shit like that. I'm like, dude, I said, you lost your leg watching my back so I can play music, you know? So it kind of affected me, I don't know, every time I tell Billy, every time I talk about this song, I start crying, man. It pisses me off. But it was just something that really struck me, and it hit home with me because when I started talking to him, you know, he had a scar on his head, and just a cool guy. His name's Mike, and I started calling him Mighty Mike, and he was just cool. He goes, nobody cares. I said, I care. I said, man, I'll sign. Gave him everything that I had, records, vinyl, everything, and just you know, just I talked to him all night and hung out with him, and that just it just really hit me, you know. A lot of them guys over there come home, and he was talking about some, you know, having trouble, and you know, just I don't know, it just kind of affected me getting older, and just wrote the song. It kind of fell together, you know. And one thing, I listen to a lot of country music when I do a lot of welding during the day, and well, we'll throw country music on, and some of the guys that I work with, they'll like new country, but I'll turn it. I like old country, like Johnny Cash and the old shit like that.
Sure,
yeah. But every song I heard is like, you know, these are for the guys that never, you know, didn't come home. And I said, man, there's a lot of fucking guys that came home and nobody gives a shit. You know, they're fucking struggling. And so I said, this one right here, I wrote it to both. You know, it's gave their all, and you know, here's the ones that come back home. You can live, man, but you know, a lot of guys, it's just it's tough. You know, it really affected me just seeing the look in his eyes, like, you know, he's seen the shit, he's seen the real deal. He ain't seen, you know, talking about whipping somebody's ass or shooting somebody. He had to go, you know, kill or be killed. And
you know, I mean, I think it's the sort of thing that, you know, those of us that haven't lived through that, you know, we can't relate to what that's like. You know, I mean, I have a friend who's in the Marines, and we were just talking about, you know, the time that he spent in Iraq, and he talked about one time a truck in front of him blew up, another time a truck behind him blew up, and it's like there's nothing you can do. It's just random, you know. You just you know, it's just, you don't understand it. And I think it's a great sentiment to kind of talk about the people that do come back, you know. And I mean, obviously this is a much heavier topic, but it's like, when you think about as terrible as it was, all the people who lost their lives in Vietnam, then you think about everybody who came back, and, you know, literally people, the way that they treated them, it just couldn't have been worse. And I like to think it's better than that now, but it's always nice to know that, I'm sure for them, that like somebody does appreciate it, because he probably did feel like, yeah, nobody cares, you know, about my story.
I said, man, I do. I said, I'm sorry, you know, it just blew me away. You know, he was just, I don't know, it just, he was just kind of nonchalant about it, but you could just tell, man, as it fucking really put a stroke on me. So I just wanted to do that song that way, and you know, and we got, you know, I'm trying to get it finished, worked out right now, but got in touch with the Wounded Warrior people, and I was just trying to anything that we generate off that song was going to give to them guys, and do whatever, and go do shows, whatever they want us to, you know, that we can do or want to do, or you know, shit, you know. I'll do whatever. I've been doing free shows for the March of Dimes since I was 15 years old.
Oh, wow. How did you become involved with the March of Dimes? That organization?
You remember the Jerry Lewis telethons and all that?
Sure, of course, yeah.
Back when we were younger, everybody used to get a can and used to go to everybody's house and collect change and take it down there and do it. Well, me and my buddy Johnny Browning, we were young. We went and got some all day long. We went and walked around and got some, and we went and bought model cars with it, man. I felt like a shithill for the rest of my everything I ever. We bought a $5 model car with it, you know, with some of the money, and it just. My mom kicked my ass too, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, when I was a kid, we would get those. We'd go out on Halloween. We'd have the little UNICEF boxes, and
yeah,
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 if my mom had found out that I didn't turn it in, it would have been the same thing,
yeah.
actually.
Beat the shit out of me, man.
Yeah,
She was like that, but it just I just felt uh, anytime we had it's called the MDA Jam here in Memphis, and we played it just about any time it if we were around here or could, and just went down to the show and donated money and just trying to pay back, trying to pay back,
yeah.
this
Trying to pay back a model car from however many decades ago. It's it seems like you've more than made up for it. So sometimes a guilty conscience can actually be a good thing. Changing gears, you mentioned earlier the song "Love Can Make You Blind," which obviously is. I would say the song that the band is best known for from 30 years
yeah.
ago. And you said something interesting about it, that's sort of like without a song like that, especially in that time, nobody's going to really notice a band, and you have a lot of bands that, you know, have especially a song that, comes out at the right time then, and then
Yeah.
it takes off. And then you're able to basically have people remember you so much longer because of the one song. I wanted you to talk a little bit about that, but then also the decision to record a new version of it, which is included on the new album.
Well, the song, golly, the song, man, I really, I'll just tell you straight up. When back in the day, you had to have your ballad, and you had to have this, and you had to look a certain way to get processed through radio or MTV, or how the machine works. and
Yeah, I mean, just another band from the same era. It's like it's all well and good that Slaughter had that song up all night, but it's like they needed "Fly to the Angels" to be the song that
yeah,
was.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Uh, I wrote the little song, and it was a good song, but for a lot of years, I hated that song. I had to play it everywhere we did, anything we did. You know how it is. Anywhere you go, that's what's playing. You got to do this. And like I said back at the beginning, we did 13 shows, and the next thing we had a record deal, and
sure.
I've had to record for you know. Uh, that whole record process, learning how to do that was nothing but a blur of people bringing in cocaine and just a party. It was just fucking insane, is what it was. It was a big blowing of money, but that little song, I got thinking about it, and I played it a lot, and I played it, and then I went through things where I just didn't want to play it, and I was trying to get away from the '80s thing, and I finally just come to grips. I said, you know what? That little song took me from living in a 10 by 12 store all unit with no bathroom. All I had was a sleeping bag and a guitar and a little wall, air conditioner heater. And that little song took me, out of there, and I got to go everywhere I ever wanted to go. I got to go to Playboy Mansion. I got to do all kind of crazy shit. And I finally just said, and there's a lot of people liked it. And even though the recording of it's horrible, um, so when we started getting these guys in the band and started, I really wanted to come back and put the band together, and I wanted to just do what I wanted to do instead of being '80s rock guy or whatever you want to call it. I just wanted to play music. We started revamping all the old songs that we still play, and we just took it and reworked it and changed a little bit about it. Just made it more like us. It's a different band than the guys that originally wrote it with, and so we just kind of brought it up to speed a little bit where we're at, and started getting good, and we started really. We've been working so much on vocals. We got these harmony things that we've been doing, and it started getting real good. And that brought us up to recording. As that song took me from here. Got me in touch with Clive Davis. It got me, from eating and using the bathroom in a Mrs. Winter's cup to actually in a house where there's a toilet. It was a beautiful thing. Uh, and then when we got here, we had 9 weeks in the studio, and we've been playing it good. And I just wanted a good version of it, basically, you know, and I just wanted to, you know, fans to have this is the way we do it now. It's a little different, but this is the band. This is how it is. And I just wanted to do Matt, you know, like I said, Matt, the guy down in the studio, big fan. And I just said, man, I want to do this song. I asked the guys in the band, and they were like, cool, Ruhl, whatever you want to do, you're cool. And it was kind of when I did record it, it was kind of you know, it was almost a back to you know, when it first all happened, you know, and I wrote it and everything. So I just said, I want to do it for me. I want to do it for the fans. And, you know, there's a lot of people, you know, that haven't heard it. And, you know, but the people that have heard it, I just wanted a version of it that represents us now, represents the time. And, you know, I felt like I owed it a little. I always feel like I owe something. Just, you know, it took me a long way. It did a lot of things for me. And, you know, I just wanted to do a good, where I could sit and be proud of it. Every time I heard the one off the record, I would just cringe. Don't want to hear it, turn anything on. But
which is funny when you you know, what you referenced before, how much money you spent to record that first record, and then versus, you know, recording this one now. Like, you spend so much to get a version of it that you don't even like, you know.
Right, $375,000, and I probably did this record. I probably got under for maybe $20,000.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, it's always interesting, you know, when an artist has a song that is, you know, that they're really known for and people expect to want to see. I remember going to see that band Ugly Kid Joe, and they didn't do that song Everything About You, and I was like, they're a good band, but that's the song I wanted to see. You know, what are they doing? You know. And a few months ago, I talked to yeah, it's a different kind of music, but I talked to Dave Perner from the band Soul Asylum, and they have that song Runaway Train.
Yeah.
Huge song. And I asked him, and he's like, you know, yeah, you know, it's a big song, it's a song I like, it's a song I wrote, but yeah, you don't love playing it every night. And he what he said is that he would ask the audience, and about half the time they would cheer loud, like, because they wanted to hear it. And then sometimes people are like, no, I've heard it, let's hear something different. You know, you can give them a choice, you know. But I think, you know, coming back around to a song like that, it's you know, and obviously I think a lot of artists would probably say, you know, artists who maybe never had that first album really take off, that they would have killed for a song like that to at least get people to listen to it. So it's a very Zen-like experience 30 years later, where you kind of like, all right, I've made my peace with the song, but I hate that version of it, so I'm going to do a new one.
And you don't get to do that very often doing
Right.
this, right? You know, and so everybody was up for it. So I was just like, I'm going to do it. And, you know, what's the worst can happen? If it's not good, then well, can it?
Well, yeah, there's always that too. Yeah. And so obviously we're talking about the album Resurrect the Faithful. And I mentioned it earlier that the documentary, also called Here's to the Ones, that can be found in the bravewords.com social networks. And I just, in closing, I kind of wanted to have you comment on, there was I think you were the one who said it in this, that there's no song on the album that you'd want to do over, and you feel like they could all be a single. I'm going to assume that not every time that you've recorded an album where you feel like there isn't maybe one or two that, like, oh, I wish I could kind of tweak that. So do you feel like this is like, oh, this is the album where it's like, I actually, you know, where basically every one of them was a home. It's like, I forget how many songs are. I think it's 12, like 12 home runs or whatever it is.
Yeah, but you know, the thing about this record and these guys I'm playing with now, I mean, I've been playing with Troy, my bass player, for God, man, he's for over 25 years, easy, you know. But everybody, you know, everybody that jumped into this, all the way down even to Alan jumping in. Alan jumped in to learning the set, going on the road, and trying to write a record with us for the first time. Just the chemistry of the guys, because everybody in this band is, the song comes first, and then the rest of the shit is, you know what it is. And we just took every aspect of doing the record that way, and everything. If it didn't feel right, and if it didn't feel right in our gut, you know, just we were going to do it again or move on, you know. And even with the songs, you know, it had to just appeal to it. And every record of every demo tape, everything, there's always one song on there that, and you always start it, this is going to be the best one. And it's always the one you're going, God, it sucks, man. I hate it. You know,
Sure.
it never like you want it. But the thing about this is I went in there so wide open. You know, I don't write no lyrics. So I just go in there and I just do them. You know, I got ideas and I just start saying them and it happens. But I've got the feel is all got, it's all got to be the right attitude and the right mode. And they just all hit. And all these songs were new to us and just a little bit heavier. They're real heavy, but they're real commercial. And man, I don't know how to explain it. It was just one of those little touches from God or something, you know. It just you don't happen very often, you know, where you walk out and go, you know, there's things I would love to still change on it if, you know, if you had like 4 months to record or
Sure,
5
yeah.
or whatever. You know, but overall, the chemistry of the band, you can feel it's good. Everybody plays great. The songs are good. And the songs are all, like I said, they're all something. When we were recording, John come out, and I think he was talking about When It Goes Away. He goes, you know, just about, he goes, that was listening to what we're doing in there. And he goes, I remember that shit happening. And I was like, yeah, every song on there, you were 10 feet from, you know, it happened right in our little nucleus thing here. And that's what's really the best part about it is, you know, just writing. And when everybody in the room, because I'm sitting there on the floor going, it goes like this, come on, man, you gotta. And they're not understanding shit what I'm talking about. But when it all starts clicking and they all start getting it, and everybody, that's all they focus on. That's probably the favorite thing, you know, because how I got them to get into to breathe and that song, I was sitting in the floor and I just said, let me show you where I'm at. And I just started singing it without nothing happening. And we just started building on top of it. And just happened. It was just like little magical writing sessions. And, you know, that's all we do is write. Me and Troy and John and Gunnar, that's, you know, we wrote the Grind record. And then as soon as we were done with that, we were already, you know, writing songs. And then when I got here, I was like, man, I want to do something different. As soon as we got out of the studio, you know, month or 2 months ago or whatever, we've already got 4 new songs that we've already started writing on for the next thing. And it's, you know, we're in a good spot. And, you know, we're just, we ain't making no money. We're not doing shit. We get to play shows and ride around a cool bus. And, you know, as long as we pay our bills, you know, it's just, and meeting people and get to hang out and talk to people every night. And that's probably my other favorite thing is anybody in this business thinks that the fans are not what it's about. They're insane, you know, because I have people that bring me the craziest shit and know more about me than me. And I, you know, and spend their money and come and see us play, and they see us act stupid and do all the things. And, you know, after you're done and talking to a bunch of people and, or sitting in this room writing is my 2 favorite things ever, you know, so.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, you know, the kind of people that you get to meet that really do appreciate it that much. And then, you know, just sort of what you talked about earlier about getting to meet Mighty Mike and getting to sign his leg, you know, you get stuff like that, that it's like, you know, you wouldn't get that if you just put it out into the world.
Whole
You know?
perspective on,
Sure.
I was like, man, you know, just, but that's what music's supposed to do, I think. And that's what this, you know, to me, that's what the feeling I get from somebody. I'm just passing along a feeling, but, you know, the way it made me feel, I was just trying to convey, you know, damn, you know, whatever way it is, you know.
So, yeah. So the final question, as you know, we're in these strange circumstances right now. Are there hopes or actual plans to maybe play some shows later this year, next year? You know, obviously the best way to promote the album would be that, you know, I'm lucky that I get the opportunity to talk to a lot more people who aren't on the road like they would be. I've done a lot of interviews in these last 7 months, and you know, I appreciate it. But obviously the best way to do it, I think, would be getting out there to play shows, right?
Well, you know, it's kind of picking up. You know, we started picking up shows. We just did a show probably a month ago with Ron Keel, and I've known Ron Keel, not known him, but I've done his radio show a bunch, and Uh,
By the way, Ron Keel, one of the people that I've gotten to talk to
right,
because he's home,
yeah,
he's not out
right.
as much as he used to be,
And man, we just we went and played a show with him, and like I said, I'd done his radio show and talked to him, and his first the first Kill record. I had it, and you know uh, that was awesome. So, and the show since then, it's just started. We're starting to pick them up, and I think it's going to break sooner or later. But yeah, man, I just get out and I want to get out and play, or do whatever we can. But we got a couple of shows. We got one November 7th, and we got a couple more that they keep getting. They'll call me. I said, "All right, quit sending me this piece of paper." Goes, it got changed to here, because when it gets to here, they go, "We're changing it to here." So,
yeah.
but they're slowly coming. We're trying to do a little thing off our documentary. We're trying to do it. It's called like a little screening thing. We're just going to do 5 or 6 cities, and just go and uh, play the record, and then get on stage and play the record and some songs off the other records that we still that we want to play, and just
Sure.
and do of the documentary, and just just kind of a fan thing, just to hang out and just shoot shit and go out and try to get in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you sort of have to kind of redefine what the live event experience is.
The
You
whole
got to do
thing,
something a little different. It's like it's a lot more outdoor shows. You have established bands you've heard of. They'll play at a drive-in or whatever, and outside of the musical performance, it's like over the weekend I took my kids to Knott's Berry Farm, the amusement park in Southern California, but the park's not open, but they're doing like Halloween themed, like, food tastings, and you could do like a trick or treating thing where it's like they hand them out, they have these gloves on and they drop them in the bag and they still get to wear their costumes. So it's like, you just have to sort of approach things in a different way. It's like, okay, well, what are we allowed to do now? How many people can we have? Great. So we'll have people where we watch the documentary. Maybe we play a few songs instead of like,
right?
let's get a few thousand people, packed into a club. You just have to think about it differently. So, but that's great that you're able to at least get out and kind of experience it with fans. And how do people find all that? Is it just Every Mother's Nightmare website, or social media?
Find anything on us is emnrocks.com.
EMN Rocks. Okay. So yeah, so that's where they find everything. They can find out the cities those are happening, and how to get the album. Again, the album is Resurrect the Faithful. Rick Ruhl, it's been a lot of fun talking to you. I could talk to you about your music for another hour, other people's music, people whose names we can't say, all that stuff. But it's been a lot of fun to get the chance to talk to you, and I look forward to seeing some of these songs live when you can actually get back out there and do the big size tour where you'll play the Whiskey a Go-Go or the Troubadour or somewhere,
Right.
in my neck of the woods. But I really appreciate you taking the time and being so generous with your time to talk to me.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you just wanting to talk to a redneck like me.
it's always the most fun. Thanks again, Rick Ruhl. And as for me, you can always find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ, and the show, The Bladtcast, can be found BLADTCAST, Bladtcast.com, at Bladtcast, The Bladtcast on Facebook. Thanks so much, and we will see you all next time on The Bladtcast.
Cool.